Backstage at the Caribou is about a young ballerina named Michelle who's just out of college. She moves to the city to get a job with a company, sort of that whole starry-eyed, young starlet dream sort of thing. And she finds out she just doesn't really have what it takes. She goes to a few auditions, but basically just kind of overeats and feels sorry for herself. She doesn't really have that drive. She has sort of a victim complex. She has this beguiling, mysterious neighbor named Samantha, who is an exotic dancer and sort of draws her into this world almost without her realizing what's happened. And before she knows it, she's up on stage as a stripper instead of a ballerina. And when I sort of give people the 5-second description of the book, it's a ballerina who doesn't make it and becomes a stripper. A lot of times I've heard, oh, so it's like a good girl gone bad sort of story, and that's not what it is at all. It's really more of a girl grows up story. The ballerina being the little girl's costume and the little girl's dream growing up, and then the reality of most women on stage dancing is quite different. What ends up happening is she sort of grows up in this very unlikely situation, and she ends up taking care of a lot of the people in the club. There's this gorgeous blonde bombshell who happens to be mute. There's a very wry sort of Midwestern girl who's just there to get through school, and it's a lot of it is about the relationships between the characters, which are of course wrought with all sorts of drama and histrionics. I wrote Backstage at the Caribou 4 years ago when I was 23, and when I moved to Boston, I was able to get an agent for it, and she shopped it around for 2 years. She loved it, and she was very, good about shopping it around. Bantam, Random House, HarperCollins, all the big ones, they were all reading it. I thought, surely I'm gonna get a condo and a new car. I'm gonna be on Oprah. Almost all of the readers who read Backstage agreed that it was very well written, and most of them even said they enjoyed it, but they passed on it because it was unsellable, and each of them had a different reason for why they didn't think it would sell enough to justify buying it. When I was writing it, everyone said, you need an agent. That's the only way to get published. You need to get an agent, and then she will take the book and bring it to publishers, and then they will look at it, and then they will publish you, and then you get your audience. And even 5 years ago, I would say that was true. But now, publishers need a built-in audience, that guarantee of the selling point before they will pick anybody up. Publishing isn't as lucrative as it used to be, and they're very, very hesitant to take risks of any kind. I don't know what the future of publishing is, but it will likely look very different from the model of publishing that we all grew up with. The secret that most people don't really know about writers is very few authors have ever made a significant amount of money from the actual sale of their books. Money has generally come from things like movie deals or appearances or things like that. When you think of it that way, even giving your book away for free as free content on a blog, on the internet in some way, shape, or form, doesn't seem to be that much of a hit. I've always liked graphic novels, which of course come out in serial form, and of course a lot of old fiction like Charles Dickens was originally written to be serialized. Fiction lends itself very well to serialization, and when I was thinking of how I was going to do this, I realized there were 40 chapters in Backstage at the Caribou, and Backstage at the Caribou, a novel serialized in 40 weeks, just sort of sounded very important and snazzy. So I bought a domain name, and I started putting up one chapter every week at backstageatthecaribou.com. I feel like this thing that I had worked on was getting out there and being read, which is really why anybody writes. And I started putting it on, and people that I had never met before, started coming up and mentioning things that not only proved they had read one chapter or something, but were talking about the characters in a way where they were invested, they had been really reading this, and that was extremely encouraging for me, who had been sitting on this thing for about 3 years, to see people engaged by it. I have so many friends who are artists, either painters, photographers, graphic designers. I got the idea that if I could get my stuff out there in this way, why not help them get some of their work out there? And not only that, we can sort of cross-promote each other. If they have fans, they can come and see their picture on my blog, and maybe they'll get interested in Backstage at the Caribou. If they're regular readers of my blog, maybe they'll click on their picture and go to the artist's website and get interested in their work. Trillium eBooks approached me and asked if I wanted to make Backstage at the Caribou available on Kindle. At first, I wasn't sure. It almost seemed like the antithesis of what I was trying to do with the blog, but on the other hand, it's electronic. I believe that these sorts of devices, when they get a little bit more refined, will eventually take the place of paper books. And it is a good way to support the artist, which I'm in favor of, especially when the artist is me. So I went ahead and did it. So that just went up on Kindle on Amazon, and now I think Sony Reader too. And it's all exciting, and sky is the limit. The internet is an extremely exciting development in a way. We're almost like the first generation with access to a printing press, so we have to sort of figure out how we're going to use it. In 10 years, we may not even need a published book to be considered a successful author.